We welcome you back. Week 2, another edition of Walter Football and the Odd Shopper channel. The superpowers have combined, and we bring you more insight. Not us, not me. It's Walter. Walter from Walter Football. See, the man himself steps into the ring here and is going to knock out 5 plays like he did last week. So first and foremost, we appreciate you being there with us. Hit that thumbs up button on the Odd Shopper channel. We'll tell you all about the walterfootball.com site in just a second, all the depths in which you can go and all the great things you can take advantage of. My friend, I do have to just ask really quick, and shame on me for not leading with this. You and I are in the same area. The last time we spoke, we had some high hopes. We saw what would have been the worst Saturday in Philadelphia sports history go down. How you doing?
It's funny you say we saw, because it was the weirdest thing. I wasn't sure when Game 6 was. I assumed it was Saturday, and I looked online. I was like what time's the game 6? And it said Sunday at 8 o'clock, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. Why are they taking 2 days off? And then later that night on Twitter, at past midnight, I saw people saying like, oh, they need to get rid of Hoskins and stuff like that. I'm like, that's kind of weird to say during the World Series. And so I completely missed Game 6. I don't know what happened, but I guess it's a good thing that it happened that way.
Good thing for you, but I could argue that we needed your eyes on there. See, I mean, we needed your good grace, charm, luck, what have you. You're killing the football contest, so we needed you over on the baseball side.
It was all my fault. I take full responsibility for that loss.
I love it. All right, we're back this week. You have 5 more plays to get to across the board, but let's remind everybody about all of the great things that are happening, because there are a bunch. It's not just you're going to walterfootball.com for betting information, betting plays. It's not like you're going there just for DFS or for mock drafts. You guys really have an all-encompassing site that takes everything from the betting to the DFS to mock drafts across the board. So you guys are really doing a lot, and we want to at least highlight all the great things that are happening at walterfootball.com.
Yeah, I guess we're known for our mock drafts. We have 2 sets of 2023 NFL mock drafts and 2024 NFL mock drafts if you're looking to see what's going to happen way in the future. We have NFL picks against the spread updated almost every single day. So if something happens and the line moves, we're like, okay, we like this now or whatever. We have fantasy rankings every week, DFS content. We grade every single signing and trade, and also coach firing. So if you want to see what we think about the move the Colts made with Jeff Saturday, it's right up there on walterfootball.com.
Yeah, I'm seeing right now the movement each and every day as far as the mocks that come out for 2023. So if you're out there, you like futures, you like to get ahead of information, you like to bet the draft, you probably want to stay on walterfootball.com as much as humanly possible. All right, we have 5 more plays this week to dive into. Let's hit it. All right, my friend, let's jump into it. We have 5 plays. Where would you like to begin with your first play across the board?
So we're starting near the top of the card with Jacksonville plus 9.5 at Kansas City. And I know it's very fearful to bet against Patrick Mahomes because if you do and he scores like 44 points and they win by 20, you feel kind of stupid. But looking at the results this year, you shouldn't be scared at all, because ever since week 1, I'm excluding week 1 in this analysis because Arizona was down like half its roster. So since week 2, the Cardinals are 2-5 against the spread. The only times they covered were against the Buccaneers and the 49ers. Those are 2 marquee games that everyone remembers. Every other game they failed to cover, and that includes some games they almost lost, like week 2 against the Chargers. If Justin Herbert doesn't throw that 99-yard pick 6, the Chargers might win. Against the Raiders on Monday night, they were down 17-0, and we've seen the Raiders blow games, and they only won that game by 1. On Sunday night, they were down by 8 to the Titans, missing Ryan Tannehill. This Chiefs team hasn't been impressive, and it's because their defense is 27th in EPA. They've allowed 20 points to every single team they played this year, except for the Titans on Sunday night, and the Titans were starting Malik Willis, who completed 5 passes. So I feel like the Jaguars are going to score a lot of points. The Chiefs are going to score. They're going to need to score, I feel like, in the high 30s to cover the spread. I just don't think it's going to happen. And the Jaguars haven't lost by more than 8 at all this year. So I think this is going to be a close game. It wouldn't surprise me if the Jaguars threaten to beat the Chiefs at the end. I think the Chiefs will win by like 3, 4, 6, something like that. So plus 9.5 seems great to me.
I love that. How much stock do you ever put in? And this is a little bit, not a lot of a stretch, but a little bit of a stretch, Walter, with coach familiarity. right? Inside info, whatever you want to label it. I've seen it. And Doug Peterson knows who Andy Reid is. Those two guys know each other. Granted, Patrick Mahomes, and this is why I say a little bit of a stretch, because it's not like Doug coached Patrick Mahomes, but I wonder if there's anything at all that comes across your radar with head coaches, coordinators, even assistant coaches down to position coaches that may have familiarity with the other team. In this case, it's the head coach.
Yeah, it's pretty important, especially if the coach knows the personnel very well. That's something I like to exploit when it happens. Now, Peterson's been away from the Chiefs for a while, but he does know Andy Reid's tendencies, so that could help a little bit. If he were coaching there last year, I think it would be a huge boost to the Jaguars for sure.
All right, let's keep it moving here. First play in the books, Walt. Let's hit our second play now. What are you looking at across the board? What else jumps out at you as far as another one of your power plays?
So I'm looking at the Texans plus 4.5 against the Giants. It seems like we're getting a bad number here because the line opened 7, and on Monday I was pretty angry because I didn't lock this in at 7 when it moved down to 6.5. And the sharps have been pounding the Texans like crazy. It's down to 4.5 now, and kind of wonder why. And I think it's the 6-2 record the Giants have achieved is kind of misleading. Look at the results this year. They barely beat the Titans week 1, and the Titans back then weren't what they were now. They got blown out the following week against Buffalo. Week 2 they were outplayed by the Panthers. They only won because they recovered 2 fumbles in the first half. Their big win, the one win everyone remembers was against Green Bay in London, and that was so impressive at the time. And Green Bay has lost to everyone since, so it doesn't matter anymore. So I think their best win right now was against Baltimore. And the Ravens are coming off 2 tough games against Buffalo and Cincinnati. It didn't feel like they were trying their best against the Giants in that game. Yeah, they were even ahead at the end, but Lamar Jackson had 2 turnovers to give the Giants the win. So this Giants team could easily be 4-4 or even 3-5 right now. And if that were the case, I don't think they'd be favored by more than 3. And Houston has been very competitive in all their games this year. They've been within 10, except for against the Raiders and Eagles. And in the Raiders game, they were up heading into the fourth quarter. Against the Eagles, the number 1 team in the NFL, according to all power rankings, they gave the Eagles everything they can handle. So Houston's competitive. They're going to run the ball well with Dameon Pierce. I think they're going to keep it close. I think this is a field goal game either way.
Yeah, I love the logic there with the Giants, because I think the majority of the public probably thinks, all right, they've passed that first hurdle of this is going to be the week. This is going to be the week where the other shoe fits. And now I think they're really riding them. But you do a great job of breaking down the specifics and why they're here. Clearly, they've won those games, but why they're here would definitely lead you more to Houston. As you mentioned, you still have a little bit over that key number at 4, right?
Yeah, for sure. Getting 4 is pretty important, but 28% of NFL games land on 3, 6, and 7. So with the plus 4.5, we get 4 of those 3, 6s, and 7. So it's pretty important. But 4 is definitely a third. I'd say a third tier key number.
Right. And my fault. I misspoke as far as like you're over that key number of 3 and you lay that out. Exactly right. So you're getting a little bit there with Houston. All right. That's the second play we have. Let's move on. We have 5 plays here from Walter. We remind you, of course, walterfootball.com, the site that you want to be on. Check out mock drafts are being updated constantly for 2023. So that to DFS play information all the way through betting picks. Anytime the line moves, adjusts, they're going to have that there on site as well, walterfootball.com. And you can come hang out with us on the Odd Shopper, the free Odd Shopper site as well. All right, my friend, let's keep it moving. What's the third play you have?
So it's the Steelers plus 1.5 against the Saints. I think this spread's mispriced because TJ Watt is probably coming back. Now, if it's announced on Saturday that Watt's going to be out, I'm going to lose interest and go with someone else. But TJ Watt's presence is so important for Pittsburgh. Like, look at the metrics with him and without him on the field. With him, they've been a top 6 pass defense because he's so good at getting to the quarterback. Without him, they've been a bottom 6 pass defense. So it's pretty insane how good of a team they can be with Watt. I mean, last year with TJ Watt, they kind of scratched and clawed their way to the playoffs with Ben Roethlisberger, a quarterback. This year, they've been losing to a bunch of teams, a bunch of like pedestrian teams, because they haven't been able to get to the quarterback. But that's going to completely change with Watt on the field. And it's a good matchup here because the Saints are dealing with offensive line injuries. They're already down Trevor Penning and Andrews Pete, and then Eric McCoy got hurt on Monday night. The Saints are playing on a short week. It's going to be tough for them to make some adjustments that they need to make here against the Steelers. So I like Pittsburgh to cover here. I think they should be favored, maybe by 3, because they're so much better with Watt on the field.
And New Orleans just cooked, huh? At this point,
yeah. Yeah, they look done. They had a nice run. They had a nice win against the Raiders. At least it seemed that way. Then we found out that everyone on the Raiders had the flu, and so that was kind of misleading.
Good mention, though, for that, in case anybody wants to go back and think, oh, well, come on, they're only a couple of weeks removed from that. Yeah, another caveat, and this is what this is all about, right? Caveats, why something happened, why a loss, why a win, what have you. So, yeah, it's pretty important when half of the team is decimated by the flu.
Yeah, it's so crucial to kind of keep in mind some games you should ignore from your analysis. Like another one would be like the 49ers Falcons game where the Falcons beat the 49ers, but the 49ers were missing half the roster in that game. So you can't like look at the results and be like, "Oh, the Falcons beat the Niners. That was a good win for them." You can't factor that in at all. Same thing with the 49ers. You just have to ignore that. I mentioned previously Chiefs Cardinals. The Cardinals are missing half the roster in that game. So yeah, just some stuff to keep in mind. Just keep some notes down. It's something I do is have an Excel sheet of all the results, and I kind of like highlight some games I shouldn't factor in at all.
Smart. Coding definitely works like that. Color coding for me, at least. The brighter, the better. All right, 3 down, 2 to go. Let's move to our fourth play.
So I like the Colts +6 at the Raiders. So everyone's making fun of the Colts because of the coaching change, like Jeff Saturday, like where did that come from? But NFL players are pretty prideful. And when a lot of people make fun of their team, I think the Colts are going to come out and play hard for their new coach, even though they may not know him. But still, like they don't want to be embarrassed like this. And I think they want to prove that they can get a win. And beating the Raiders shouldn't be that difficult. The Raiders are 28th in defensive EPA. They're 9th worst overall in net EPA. The Colts are actually better in EPA overall. Like they're 3 spots ahead of the Raiders. So that says the Colts are the better team. And it's because they have the 6th ranked defense. So they should be able to hold the Raiders down pretty well. And I think that, with this coaching change, it actually has benefited teams. Teams are 14-10 against the spread since 2010 with the coaching change. We get 5 out of the 6 key numbers here with the Colts. And, if you're talking turmoil, like some people might say, how are the Colts going to bounce back with Jeff Saturday? There's stuff within the front office and whatnot. I think that's true with the Raiders, though. Derek Carr, after the game, he kind of bit his tongue. He wanted to say that something was wrong. And Charlie Campbell, our senior NFL draft analyst, reported a few weeks ago that Mark Davis is already regretting hiring Josh McDaniels. So, it wouldn't surprise me at all if McDaniels are fired if they lose this game, which I guess would be poetic justice because he spurned the Colts.
Yeah, I was just looking at this as you mentioned the key point here, the first of a couple of key points about Jeff Saturday coming in and NFL players being prideful. I think they covered the spread right after Carolina fired Matt Rule at the very least. And that too, a lot of people were talking about, hey, there are a lot of guys in this locker room, you can imagine in the Indianapolis locker room that are going to do everything they possibly can at the end of the game to say, hey, it wasn't me. Right? Like, look, we played well and it wasn't me. It was the guy that they fired. So I absolutely. And look, we can't lay points with Carr on the road. Isn't that a rule in the NFL?
Yeah, he's pretty bad as a favorite. So yeah, you definitely don't want to go there, especially after last week's results. Like they were up 17-0. They look great. Actually, in our one of our 3 entries, I mentioned the Raiders here on last week. We ended up changing to Seattle, and so Seattle played a 4. And I was so salty that we moved off the Raiders. And ended up being a good thing because they just blew that 17-0 lead.
Oh my goodness. All right, here we go. Last one in the books. Walt, take us home.
Okay, this line moved since there was an injury announcement on Wednesday. Matthew Stafford's in concussion protocol, so I'm actually on the Rams -1.5 against the Cardinals. So I like getting the key number of 3. I know that John Wolford may start, but I like backing good backup quarterbacks. I think they have a good track record of covering the spread, and Wolford's a pretty decent backup. He's shown that over the years. So I think the big thing for me in this matchup is the coaching edge. You have Sean McVay over Cliff Kingsbury. McVay, I believe, is 7-1 against Kingsbury. The only time he lost to Kingsbury was week I think it was week 4 last year, when it was right after the Rams had a big win over the Buccaneers, and then they had a game coming up on Thursday night against the Seahawks. They were just flat against Arizona, and they ended up getting blown out. The next 2 times they played Arizona that year, including the playoffs, they got blown out. So just the Rams are just so much better coached than the Cardinals to continue to make lots of mistakes. And the Cardinals suddenly have a lot of injuries again, kind of like they had in week 1. They're down so many offensive linemen, including I think like their top 4 interior offensive linemen, which is going to be a huge issue against Aaron Donald. And then defensively, they're ranked pretty highly. I think they're 10th in EPA defensively, but they're going to be without Buda Baker. So suddenly their defense is going to be a lot worse. So I like this coaching edge. I think the Rams probably win by 3, 6, 7, something like that. I think they grind out this win because they're desperate. Their season's on the line here. And Jalen Ramsey, called out the offense. I feel like everyone's going to play better. And Arizona is just a mess. You have Kyler Murray yelling at Kingsbury. You have him constantly yelling back and forth with Hopkins. Kingsbury's wearing sunglasses inside. It's just a very bad look overall for Arizona.
I love the optics. That's a great play right there. All right, yeah. Whenever you see the head coach walking around with sunglasses inside, you know that something fade that team, right?
Yeah, the one exception was remember Tony Sperano had to wear the glasses for his condition.
Sure.
But outside of that, you have no excuse. I don't understand why he's doing that, and it kind of matches his coaching ability.
I'm sure Jerry Glanville lost a lot of spreads with shades on indoors, right?
Yeah, I don't have the data from back then, but I'm willing to bet that he was negative against the spread.
All right, let's look at this. Let's do this. Well, let's recap your 5 plays. Why don't you recap real quick your 5 plays, and then let's hit the cutting floor, the honorable mentions, the games that you really liked, but you didn't quite love enough to make the final 5.
Okay, so we went with 4 underdogs: Jaguars plus 9.5, Texans plus 4.5, Steelers plus 1.5, Colts plus 6, and Rams minus 1.5 being the lone favorite. So a couple of other underdogs I considered that barely made the cut or didn't make the cut. The Lions plus 2.5 against the Bears. It feels like everyone in the world loves the Bears because of what they saw against Miami. But I'm here thinking like, well, the Lions are more impressive against Miami than the Bears were. They were up 2 touchdowns, whereas the Bears were trailing the entire time. And the other common opponent they recently had, the Bears are blown out by Dallas, and the Lions played Dallas, and they were a Jamal Williams fumble away from taking a 13-10 lead in the 4th quarter. The Lions are known for their terrible defense, but they've gotten back some players from injury recently. Charles Harris, Deshaun Elliott, Mike Hughes. So they've been sneakily better defensively recently. Like they're not, I'm saying they're great or anything, but they're definitely not the worst defense in the NFL anymore. So I think they should be able to hang with the Lions or the Bears rather. And I think, at plus 3, that looked very attractive, but here at plus 2.5, not as much. So I think this is something going to be betting in real life. The other one is Chargers plus 7. You get all the key numbers with Justin Herbert. I feel like the Chargers somehow will find a way to cover the game, even if it takes a backdoor cover. A great quarterback like Justin Herbert shouldn't be underdog of that many points. Throughout his career, it's a brief career, but so far as an underdog of 6 or more, 6 being a key number, he's 3-0-1 against the spread. And the 49ers historically under Kyle Shanahan I think they're 11-19 against the spread as a favorite of 3.5 or more. So it's kind of like the Niners tend to play down to their competition. Herbert, I feel like, is going to cover somehow at the end.
Love it. 5 plays, even a little sprinkle, a couple of honorable mentions, and the reasoning, the rationale as far as why you stay away from it. Can't thank you enough, Walter. WalterFootball.com is the site. So on your way out, if you haven't hit the thumbs up button here on the Odd Shopper channel, subscribe. We want you to be a part of everything going on here. Head on over to WalterFootball.com, see the updated mock drafts, see what you can gain as far as any type of analysis on what to bet, lines move, and then you can head to the free Odd Shopper site and find the book that has the best value. So you get all the insight, you get all the information at WalterFootball.com, and you can apply that for the best book, the best odds for wherever you are. Everything else, my friend, one more time that you want to get out because you have a ton going on site.
Yeah, like I said before, lots of mock drafts. Charlie Campbell, I mentioned him before. He hit his top 10 picks in the 2022 NFL draft, his mock draft. It was just incredible, and because of the information he had, we hit all of our props except for extreme long shots. Every single prop we hit ahead of the 2022 NFL draft. So we're gonna have props as usual in April, toward the end of April. So check us out then. But in the meantime, we have updated picks, college football picks as well, fantasy stuff, grades for every move. So yeah, check us out at walterfootball.com.
All right, that's Walter. I'm Eitan. Thanks to Dan for producing. We will see you all next Thursday. Have a great and most importantly, profitable week.